A few months ago, Ferrari launched the Ferrari Luce, the company's first electric car. What followed was mayhem on the internet, with people ridiculing it for the way it looks, comparing it to bland-looking Chinese EVs, and accusing it of not having any character or Ferrari-ness. It was a field day for meme creators, and thanks to AI, they went to town with it. This is a reference to the Magic Mouse. John Ive, who led the design of the Apple Magic Mouse back in the day, was one of the chief designers on this car. Here someone mashed the Luce with the Fiat Multipla, blending two of the most controversial designs to come out of Italy. Here, Toblerone takes a dig at Ferrari for getting rid of all angles. And this one, expectation versus reality. Remember this one. I'll come back to this one later because I think this is the crux of what happened. I wanted answers. I wanted to know how this design got through senior designers, investors, and a very experienced C-suite who were responsible for protecting the sanctity of this luxury automotive brand with a very rich racing heritage. I wanted to scrape the internet for answers, but I stopped myself because I wanted to hear this man out first. This is Benedetto Vigna, the CEO of Ferrari. He is a physicist, has about 200 patents filed under him, and he took the reins of Ferrari in 2021. I love that the word reins is very fitting here. This video is an exploration of what the Ferrari Luce is, why it exists, and more importantly, why it looks the way it does. Following a week of mockery and memes since the Luce's launch, Vigna, while speaking to a journalist here, mentions that they definitely were expecting reactions from the automotive world, but not a reaction so violent. I definitely recommend watching this video, although the entire conversation is in Italian, but there is a sloppy AI translator. He opens his statement in a classic CEO tone that is both optimistic and diplomatic. He says that in a certain sense, this backlash that they received is proof that Ferrari is still relevant in the hearts of people. If Ferrari wasn't relevant, people wouldn't react so strongly. I agree. A large part of the criticism from car enthusiasts falls into some variation of these three statements. It doesn't look like a Ferrari, it looks like any other EV, it looks bland, and this comment nails it. The Ferrari Luce looks like a Chinese copy of a Ferrari Luce. To many car enthusiasts and collectors and Italians and fans like myself, Ferrari is a sacred brand. So the question many of us around the world had was, why did they choose to design a car that is so un-Ferrari, so to speak, and alter the identity of a brand that is held in such high regard by so many of us? Why does it not look like a traditional Ferrari? The identity of Ferrari was built carefully over 80 years. High-performance combustion engines have been their bread and butter. That's what powered the wins at F1 and Le Mans. This tech is what trickled down into legends like the 250 GTO and the Enzo. So when they introduced a new technology on board, like an EV, it was important for Ferrari to avoid touching the design aesthetics, the lines, the style, and shapes associated with their existing legacy. They wanted a clear demarcation. For Ferrari, the EV segment is an experiment. But in the pursuit of that experiment, they didn't want to mess with the identity of what's already considered sacred and sanctimonious. The audacious shape and stance of a Ferrari is usually paired with a screaming 6 or 12-cylinder engine. What I mean is that the aesthetics here is not just visual, but it is heavily associated with the way it sounds and performs. The Luce does not try to imitate a traditional sports car or supercar or hypercar because it is simply not one. Here they wanted to add a new kind of technology and along with it a new kind of identity. Vigna says that the ethos of Ferrari is that it tries to push the limits and redefine what's actually possible. They're trying that with their EV tech too. and it was important for them to build this technology and identity without affecting its existing legacy. Now, about this image. Let's say they had stuffed a battery pack and an electric motor into a traditional looking Ferrari, painted it Rosa Corsa, Ferrari's signature red paint scheme, and called it, let's say, the Enzo EV or something like that. That would have been the funeral of the century. They would have pissed off everyone around the world, especially existing Ferrari owners. Because when you spot a Ferrari, you should be able to tell that it is in fact a Ferrari with a combustion engine that sounds like a thunderstorm is brewing nearby. And not second guess if it's an EV or a traditional car. Back in 2019, Ford made the mistake of naming their first electric SUV the Mustang Mach-E. And the Mustang fans lost it because they considered that name sacred and associated it with gas-guzzling muscle cars. Ferrari may have learned a lesson or two here from Ford. So with this car, Ferrari wants to win over a new kind of customer, somebody who cares about sustainability and emissions and quiet neighborhoods. Sorry about that. In their opinion, this new customer would care more about the fact that their EV was made by a brand that has a legacy of producing world-class cars that push the limits in terms of design and engineering. Many auto brands around the world thrive on pushing the limits and breaking conventions. Some of them work, some of them don't. Jaguar! Porsche, if you remember, back in the early 2000s, received a lot of backlash when they launched their first SUV, the Cayenne. When they introduced the Cayenne, the world accused Porsche of abandoning its roots and racing heritage. Cayenne is Porsche's highest selling car today. Their 911 sales are just fine. Ferrari themselves are no strangers to backlash. They've received backlash multiple times in the past, and recently for the Puro Sangue, their SUV-looking hatch thingy. Although Ferrari doesn't publish sales numbers, it's an open secret that Puro Sangue was Ferrari's highest selling car in 2025. Could they have done a better job at launching their EV identity if that was the intention? In the looks department, maybe, but in other aspects, I'm actually not so sure. Let's look at some supercar brands and their EV plans. Porsche launched their Taycan electric back in 2020. Sales were okay in the beginning, but then steadily declined year after year. Porsche cites low EV adoption. Lamborghini unveiled an electric concept about 2 years ago. To me, it does look like what a Lambo should look like, but in this video, the comment section, as expected, is brutal. There are reports that they may actually never launch it. McLaren and Aston Martin have postponed their EV plans. Pagani shelved its EV plans after concluding, quote, "There are simply no customers waiting for it," end quote. Duh. So, what do I actually think is happening? Here's my bird's eye view on it. It takes a certain kind of person to buy something that's a 12-cylinder or a 16-cylinder Veyron. 16 cylinders is clearly excess. These guys aren't trying to save the planet, nor do they care about quiet streets. The excess is the point, both visually and orally. So I don't think any supercar fan or customer is waiting for these supercar brands to make an EV. EVs are quick cars, sure. Teslas and Polestars may beat a Porsche on a drag strip somewhere. But what this backlash emphasizes is that supercars aren't just about speed. It's about the overall theatrics. It's the showcasing of excess. It's the peacocking. And EVs by nature just can't do that. And supercar enthusiasts do not want an EV that's pretending to be a supercar. So no matter how sexy they made the Lucha, it would have still met with rage online because it's an EV from Ferrari. But maybe the electric car market was too juicy for Ferrari to completely ignore. And in the process of trying too hard to avoid stepping on its own legacy, they ended up making the Lucha a tad too bland. Vignia was also very clear that Ferrari wants to pioneer all kinds of powertrains, ICE, hybrid, and electric. So Lucha is not the only future of the brand, it is just one part of the story. So here's what I think Ferrari's hypothesis was, and maybe also the summary to this entire video. Ferrari has been making supercars for decades. They know that supercars are a breed of their own. Ferrari had a hunch that the EV market is worth tapping into. Ferrari had the insight that if they make an EV that's pretending to be a supercar, that it'll never fly. So they made an EV not for existing customers or fan base, but for cultivating a new fan base. They also anticipated the backlash from the existing fan base because that's not who they made it for. And if Ferrari's hypothesis is right, the Luce may just work out for them. In fact, Ferrari's target for 2026 was 500 EVs, and the Luce is already sold out for the year. And ironically, what helped meet the target so quickly was strong demand from China. How about that? Now, whether Vinya's response to the entire Lucha incident came from his heart, or whether it was crafted by the world's best PR who excel at disaster management, I believe in Ferrari, and I want them to win.